Yes, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We are going to break down the last time Gold Coast and the Lions played. So this was round 20 at People's First Stadium, the Q Clash, because we have a massive game tomorrow night, Saturday night, between these two. Gold Coast looking in their first final series to make it to a prelim, and Brisbane looking to bounce back after they pretty much got demolished last week against the Geelong Cats. So this is what we're going to be looking at. This is what we're going to be breaking down. So if you like these sort of videos, please feel free to subscribe. But enough of that, let's just get straight into it. So in the first quarter of this game, early in this game, Gold Coast was stuck doing this. And this is exactly what Brisbane want you to do. And that is to kick long to a contest, because when you are predictable to the Lions defenders, they will beat you. They are very good structurally. They are very good one-on-one. And Harris Andrews will intercept absolutely everything. And in the early parts of this game, this is what the Brisbane Lions were so good at, forcing the Gold Coast Suns to kick to contest, and that comes from really good forward pressure. So as soon as the Suns get this handball out, we're going to see Archie cover the X's. We're going to see Bailey come up and put pressure on, and that is just going to force a long dump kick. And as soon as you can do that again, look at the work of Harris Andrews being able to push Ben King to the ground. Look at the work of Darcy Gardner at the back here. So this is exactly what the Brisbane Lions want, because if you are predictable to them and they can get their midfielders like Dunkley, like McCluggage over to this contest, they will just intercept absolutely everything. They will get the ball to ground, and they will get genuinely good quality forward 50 entries where all of your defenders are suddenly on the back foot. So as soon as they get this turnover, Harris Andrews is able to go inside the forward 50, and suddenly Jared Witts is having to play defender against both Cal Archie and big Oscar McInerney. That is not a position that the Gold Coast want to be in. That is not a position that Jared Witts wants to be in. So in the early parts of this game, there were some serious warning signs, in my opinion, for the Gold Coast Suns in how they were playing. But it wasn't necessarily just the fact that they were kicking to contest. It was also their work around the contest that was almost too defensive, I would say. So we know how high-powered this Gold Coast Suns midfield is. And at a lot of the stoppages early in the game, so look, we're only 4 minutes into this game. Look at Noah Anderson here. He has no desire to get this football. His only desire is to work on Lachie Neale. And I don't think that's the right mindset that Gold Coast want to go into these stoppages with. Because if they play a defensive mindset, they are not necessarily a very good defensive midfield. And the Lions really exposed them early in this game, where they were able to get out of contest, get out of clearance so comfortably, because there was no attachment, there was no desire for the Gold Coast Suns to win contest. It was more a desire to not lose contest. So I just think they were just slightly too defensive. Again, at this stoppage, look at all of the high-profile Gold Coast Suns midfielders who are playing a really defensive role. So firstly, it's going to be Noah Anderson is forced to be behind Hugh McCluggage here. Josh Dunkley does a really good job in making Matt Rowell defensive, but I still think the positioning could have been so much more attacking. So as soon as this ball goes up, look, Noah Anderson immediately behind on the back foot against McCluggage. Matt Rowell immediately behind Josh Dunkley here. So straight away, as soon as this ball goes up in the air, both of your best midfielders are now in defensive positions. And as soon as you do that, it now becomes reliant on all of your other players to become more attacking. And the Gold Coast Suns midfield is not necessarily that, especially when you've only got players like Alex Davies, who has become a revelation this season, or at least in the back end of this season. He's not necessarily an explosive out of stoppage midfielder. So if Noah Anderson is playing defensive and Matt Rowell is playing defensive, then who of the Gold Coast midfielders is going to be able to stream through a contest and stream forward and get the ball going into the Gold Coast Suns forward 50? When they don't, and all of these players are playing defensive, look at how easily the Brisbane Lions are able to transition out of this contest. And this is what was happening for a large majority of this first quarter. But this is where we get to the good part for Gold Coast, and why I think they're going to be a real challenge to Brisbane on Saturday night, because there were some real ominous signs around stoppage early. So their ability to spread the Brisbane Lions defense was absolutely on show from the first set of bouts. So when they did get first hands of the football here in Matt Rowell, look at the ability for all of the Gold Coast midfielders to spread straight away. So as soon as Noah Anderson gets his hands on the footy, look at the defensive positions for Brisbane, but then look at the offensive positions for the Gold Coast Suns. So they could really get out of this contest so well. And again, as soon as they were able to get one handball to the outside, look at the collapsing pressure from the Brisbane Lions. Now, really good in some circumstances, but allows so much opportunity for the ball to be transitioned to the outside. So in this situation, the first set of bounce, bang, Willpower should necessarily go back to Bailey Humphrey so the Gold Coast Suns can go direct towards goal. Instead, goes out to where they can put the pressure on here in the Brisbane Lions. So that is the slight difference. That is this slight ominous sign of, hey, Gold Coast do have the ability to spread this Brisbane Lions this Brisbane Lions defense. They just didn't quite get it right early in the game. Again, all we're looking for is signs of the Gold Coast Suns being able to spread out the Brisbane Lions midfield and their ability to cover the spread. So look at this. As soon as Matt Rowell is going to get his hands on the football in about 3 seconds right now, bang. As soon as he gets hands on the football, look at the collapsing pressure from the Brisbane Lions. They get sucked into the person with the football way too often. And if he can just hit this handball, look at the difference in the spread. So as soon as he gets his hands on the football, Noah Anderson is absolutely all by himself. And look at the Brisbane Lions surrounded, collapsed into Matt Rowell. If Matt Rowell hits that handball, Noah Anderson's able to go forward. They get a really good quality inside 50 entries. So there were some genuinely ominous signs. So as challenged as Gold Coast were early in this game with their ball movement, there were some signs that they were going to explode through the midfield. And then it completely switched. We saw how defensive-minded the Gold Coast midfielders were. I think there was a word sent out saying, hey, you are the hunters. Completely hunt for this football. So as soon as this ball goes up, look at the bodywork here from Matt Rowell. Look at the bodywork here from Noah Anderson to say, hey, I'm not going to be stood behind you. I'm not going to be defending you. You are going to defend me. I'm the most dangerous person at stoppage. So instead of Matt Rowell being stuck behind Josh Dunkley, now they're on even par. As soon as Noah Anderson gets into this position, instead of chasing Lachie Neale around this contest, actively putting in bodywork to put Lachie Neale into a poor position where he controls all of the dangerous space right to the left here. And that's when Gold Coast are at their best. When they're actively hunting the football, when Noah Anderson and Matt Rowell are able to get their hands on the football first and not necessarily have a defensive mindset, that is when they're at their most dangerous. Perfect example here. The replay doesn't show it, but Alex Davies just puts enough body pressure here on Hugh McCluggage that allows Matt Rowell to play the offensive part of this midfield, of this stoppage right now. So that creation of separation means that Matt Rowell is no longer playing the defensive role as a midfielder here, and it forces Hugh McCluggage to try and make up this space. And as soon as you allow Matt Rowell to be the hunter at these stoppages, now all of the pressure is on the Brisbane Lions midfielders and Hugh McCluggage here, that he forces to give away a free kick against Matt Rowell at this stoppage, and Gold Coast get a really good entry going forward. That's all it is, just a slight mindset switch from the Gold Coast Suns midfield to say, hey, we are not going to be defensive minded here. We are going to put the pressure back on the Brisbane Lions. Now, there are some downfalls to that because you will lose contest and clearance every now and again, even if you are playing so aggressively. In fact, sometimes even more so when you're playing aggressively. But when you do, you have to be able to trust your defense. And this is what Gold Coast were able to do early. This is what Gold Coast were able to do late in this first quarter that really changed the game. So look at this. Noah Anderson is absolutely on the move here, forcing the Brisbane Lions to defend. The same with Matt Rowell in this situation, forcing the Brisbane Lions midfielders to defend. So if Noah Anderson can get a clean hand on this football, he's out the front of this stoppage. Rayner does a really good job of just getting a hand in, and that allows the Brisbane Lions to exit this stoppage. But again, you're putting them on the back foot, so they don't want to have to chain out of handball. The Brisbane Lions are now in a defensive mind around the midfield stoppage, and often that leads to them chucking the ball on the boot, like Rayner does here. Instead of taking ground and actively using your forward handball to get a really quality inside 50 entry, because they're in such a defensive mind of, hey, we need to defend, we just need to get the football going our way, that is when your defenders are in really good positions and can take these intercept marks. So this little mindset switch was a genuine game changer the last time these two teams played. And when you're able to mix this hunting mindset with the ability to spread, so we saw them almost be able to get out of contest, get out of clearance by using the spread, by spreading the Brisbane Lions defense. When you can mix those two things together, this is where you get really good results. So bang, Noah Anderson on Will Ashcroft right now, allowing each other to hunt. Matt Rowell on the hunt right now, creating separation from Josh Dunkley. And as soon as you can do that, you put all of the Brisbane Lions defenders in a defensive mindset. Josh Dunkley has to chase tail, and that allows the spread and the leaking out of Matt Rowell in this situation. So the forward handball, bang, Anderson over the top to Rowell, who was so aggressive in this contest, so aggressive forward. It's that spread, it's that connection that we didn't quite see early in the quarter, but when they were able to get it, they were able to get it going really, really well. Again here, we've got proactive positions from Anderson and Rowell. They just get this 2 or 3 meters of separation right now, and that allows Anderson to get this football. And then again, it comes down to the spread and the width that Gold Coast were able to hold, because all of the Brisbane Lions defenders come and collapse into the person with the football. And look at that. You have absolute numbers everywhere on the outside of this contest. So that connection to the outside that we didn't quite see early in the first quarter, they were dialed in towards full for pretty much the rest of the game, and that allows you to get really quality inside 50 entries. Again, all of the Gold Coast midfielders in an attacking situation, in an attacking presence. So Matt Rowell is able to get his hands on the football. He's not standing behind anyone. He's not defending. But then their ability to spread from this contest straight away. Look at that. Take the 3 steps. You engage all 4 defenders of the Brisbane Lions right now. They're all sat back watching. Could have gone to 1, 2, 3 feedback handballs right now because Gold Coast were just able to completely spread out the Lions midfielders, the Brisbane Lions defence, and that is when you get quality inside 50 entries, where your forwards are in genuine one-on-ones, but also the person with the football has time and space to make a really good decision going inside the forward 50. And this game came down to just genuine midfield dominance. The Suns just annihilated them through the midfield. They had such an attacking mindset that they were just going to say to the Brisbane Lions, I don't think you can keep up with us defensively. If you want to beat us on the other side and if you want to go forward, we will trust our defence. But on the other side, if you don't spread with us, if you don't defend us, we are going to get out the front of every single stoppage. We are going to widen the ground as much as possible. And on a ground like the Gabba, when you can go streaming through the middle of the ground like we so often see the Lions do, the Suns are going to be in a really good position to be able to do this over and over and over again. But it's not just what Gold Coast were doing really well, it's also what the Lions don't do particularly well. They don't hold their space, they don't hold their width, they like to get a lot of numbers around the contest. So look at Zach Bailey in this situation as the outside winger. He's an All-Australian this year, but these are some of the deficiencies that the Brisbane Lions have. So when this ball gets into contest, as soon as this ball turns over and Gold Coast is able to get their hands on the football right now, look at where Zach Bailey is versus look at where his man is. So both Fletcher and Bailey have been sucked into this contest just slightly. And as soon as he gets sucked in, look who's going to get his football. Bang. The outside winger is going to be the one who gets this football on the outside. And look at where Zach Bailey stood. So if they continue to get sucked in, that is where the Gold Coast is able to open up their spread. So it's not just how aggressive their midfielders were, it's also just the structure of the Brisbane Lions. And you think the coaching and the systems would be able to change, but this first centre bounce of the third quarter, the first centre bounce after half time, and we get the exact same thing. So proactive positioning from Matt Rowell again. He's able to create the separation, get first hands on the football. But again, it is the feedback handball. So Rayner, that's your man. You have to take the outside, because if you don't take the outside, that is where they're going to be able to get this feedback handball, and that is where they're going to be able to get the ball going inside their forward 50 straight away from the first centre bounce of the second half. You cannot allow that to happen over and over and over again. So the system and the structure, in conjunction with their defensive mindset, because of what Gold Coast were doing around stoppage, it just created this perfect environment for the Suns to just continue to dominate territory over and over and over again. And it was almost silly to watch at times. And when you mix the Gold Coast Suns' ability to be so sound around the stoppage, so aggressive, with the individual brilliance of players like Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson, you're going to make it a really tough day for your forwards, because you're not going to get as much supply. And you're also going to make it a really tough day for your defenders, because like we saw in this game, they're just going to get peppered with entries, but not necessarily just peppered with entry after entry, peppered with good entries, because you gave them the time and the space on the outside of the contest to make really good decisions going inside forward 50. And that's why players like Harris Andrews didn't necessarily have a big impact on this game, is because the entries weren't necessarily banging on the boot, predictable high balls to absolutely no one. They were entries on the outside of the contest where the person with the football couldn't have time and space to make a genuinely good decision. It allowed time for the forwards to make a genuinely good lead. And when you marry those two things up, it's going to be really, really hard to stop. And when we're talking about individual brilliance, there's no one further to look past than Matt Rowell. So his ability to get his hands on the football first, and then his ability to attract so many Brisbane Lions defenders. So suddenly, there's a 6v3 in this situation. His ability to look off Archie and then get the ball over the hands of Ryan Lester, and look at where the Gold Coast midfielders are now. They're all out the front of this stoppage. They're all out the front of this contest, and Noah Anderson can get this ball on the boot, kick it from 70. He kicks a goal from 70 metres out because of how brilliant this duo is. It's because the Brisbane Lions midfield without Lockie Neal is a struggling midfield. Struggling is the wrong word. Is a not one trick, but it's a flawed midfield. Defensively, Josh Dunkley is great. Jared Berry, we've seen what he can do when he goes in the midfield as a defender, but he doesn't have the offensive firepower to deal with the likes of a Noah Anderson and a Matt Rowell. So if Josh Dunkley takes one of them, we saw what happens when Matt Rowell gets Josh Dunkley on his tail. He's too quick, he's too powerful to take him. And then players like Levi Ashcroft and Will Ashcroft, who are so beautiful with ball in hand when they have the ball in their hands, when they're the ones kicking, when they're the ones being such a good offensive threat. We've seen how good they can be, but defensively, they do lack a lot. They lack a lot going the other way because they usually rely on getting first hands on the football, and that's usually Lachie Neale's job. Get first hands on the football, get the ball out to players like Ashcroft, Levi, and Will both. But when you don't have that, when you don't have that person to get hands on the football first, and it is going to be Matt Rowell getting his hands on the football first, if you aren't defensive-minded to cover the spread, to cover the players like Noah Anderson running out of stoppage, the players like Will Powell, John Noble coming off the half-back line, you are going to struggle to stop this team getting a repeat entry after repeat entry after repeat entry from stoppage. This is where the game's going to be won and lost. If Brisbane can put enough pressure on the Gold Coast mids going inside their forward 50 and allow Harris Andrews time and space to be able to jump and leap at all of the ball going inside forward 50, if the Brisbane Lions midfield can force these long, high kicks without much direction, the Gold Coast forwards aren't going to be able to compete in the air against Harris Andrews. Ben King, we know he's not necessarily a pack marker. Ethan Reid is not necessarily a pack marker at this stage of his career. But if they get one-on-one opportunities and the Gold Coast midfielders can come out either the side of stoppage or out the front of stoppage with time and space and ball in hand, they will be able to get enough quality inside forward 50 entries where their forwards have one-on-one opportunities on the lead that they will absolutely dominate this game like they dominated in round 20. So this is going to come down to the midfield battle. Can the Brisbane Lions put enough pressure on the attacking style of the Gold Coast Suns? Or are the Gold Coast Suns going to be too aggressive, too powerful, too quick, too good out of stoppage, and they're just going to run over the Brisbane Lions? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to tip Gold Coast though. I've just got a feeling that their midfield's going to be too strong unless a player like Cam Rayner plays full-time mid and just dominates a game of football. Brisbane are going to need something special in this midfield to replace Lachie Neale, and I just don't know if they have it. But I could be wrong. Let me know who you think is going to win. But if you like these sort of videos, please feel free to subscribe. We're breaking down every game before it happens and after it happens. So on tomorrow morning, if you're watching this on Friday, you will see the Adelaide versus Hawthorn breakdown. As soon as this game is done, the next morning, Sunday morning, there will be a breakdown of this exact game. So bang, bang, we've got everything covered into the prelim finals next week. Previews for that, reviews of that, and then obviously grand final week is going to be massive. We're going to be looking at all the key matchups day after day after day. Plenty of content to come. Please feel free to stick around and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.